Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from Blue Collar Nation Podcast, and I'm here with my perceptive business partner, Mr. Eric Sprague, the Tech Whisperer. How are you today, Eric?
Good. Wasn't I perceptive on the last podcast too?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
All right. Well,
You're getting your words. I'm looking at my synonyms on thesaurus.com thoroughly, and you probably could prove me wrong if I am wrong real easily, and the listeners will know.
no, I'm good. Thanks, man. I'm fine.
But,
I just got back from a mountain bike ride. I'm smiling ear to ear.
Yeah, you were riding a good bike from what I heard. You were taking the curves real well, going downhill like a machine.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. So anyway, yeah, glad to be back off the mountain and ready to talk to Skylar.
Wonderful. Well, before we talk to Skylar, I want to talk about our sponsors, Morning Tech Meeting. And the reason I bring up perceptive is because you are perceptive in the ways that you coach blue collar technicians to understand their why and what they're doing. And it makes them much more capable of doing their job and makes the owners' lives much bigger from the lessons that you give them. And what do you have to say to that, Mr. Tech Whisperer? Expand on that. Tell them how perceptive you really are.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, I think I'm a technician at heart, and I really like to work with technicians, and I think I resonate with them well. I think we speak the same language, and that's what I love to do. So that's what we're doing.
And you do a great job, which is very cool.
Thanks, man.
And on to our show. Today, we've got Mr. Skylar Lewis, who is the owner of Superior Restoration and the founder of Rise Up Kings. And we're very happy to have you here today, Skylar. Our clap track.
Happy to be here.
Clap track. We have a manual clap track, Skylar.
I push it and my hands go together. I don't know how that works. It's very easy to do, you know. So we've had you on the podcast before, Skylar. We're happy to have you back again.
Thank you. Glad to be back. That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Good. So you got the floor, Mr. Tech Whisperer. I do the intro, and you do the hard task of the interviewing.
Okay, I will. Well, Skylar, I follow you on all your social media platforms. Really enjoy your takes. Read them all. And, you know, you've done over the last, probably a year or two that I've been following full time. You do quite a few posts about failure. And I think especially non-entrepreneurial people think that failure is quote unquote bad, a bad thing to be avoided at all costs. And, you know, what Larry and I have always believed was that failure just gets you closer to being where you want to be. You're going to have to fail to excel. So I guess I want to start with, why are you doing those posts and what is your relationship with failure?
Yeah, great questions. Well, I'll share with you why I do the post. So the reason I see a lot of posts on social media of people just talking up themselves, right? They're showing the picture of their Ferrari or their nice cars or their nice houses, and they're just building themselves up. But the people I follow and respect the most are the people that actually share some of their struggles, some of their deep challenges, man. So I enjoy putting out some of the struggles that I've had, some of my major failures, and putting that all over social media so people can, I don't know, see some truth and just see a different side of me. But also I can inspire people that, hey, I still survived, even though I've gone through some pretty gnarly challenges, and I'm still fine. I'm still happy. I'm still in good health, great family, great business. And I've been through a ton of crazy stuff. So I think it's inspiring for people to see some of that, some of the challenges people have.
So would you mind sharing one or two of like the big challenges that you've had, say, in the last decade? You don't have to go way deep, bro, but like, you know, because I kind of know what they are, but I think the listeners, if they heard them, be like, oh, wow, he came back from that. That's unbelievable, you know?
Yeah. Well, let me think. I've got some ones I maybe haven't shared before too. Let me go deep. Let me see what I got. I had dude, all kinds of stuff. So one of my, and some of you guys have heard this before, but I mean, early on, right when I was 18, I went all out, bought a property. And so I've always been super ambitious. I've always been driven, always been ambitious. And I feel like I haven't had maybe some of the same guardrail risk aversion that maybe some people had. So I like to go after things. And it has served me because I've learned mistakes earlier on than other people would learn later on.
Sure.
And so one of the first things I did was I went and bought a house when I was like 18. Somehow got a loan. That was in 2007, 2008, right when the market corrected, and I ripped the house apart, completely redid it, did it all with my credit cards. So I got like $60,000 in the credit card debt, and ended up.
So you were going to flip this house.
I was going to flip this house. I ended up selling it, but it took like months and months to sell. I ended up racking up more credit card debt. I got to the point where it had about 115,000, somewhere in that range of credit card debt. I think I was like 18 or 19. Yeah, that's pretty bad, right? Now that I'm saying it out loud. They gave me an American Express Unlimited card when I was 18.
Wow.
Why would they do that?
That was all before the crash. They were giving that to everybody.
Yeah. Who gives an 18-year-old an unlimited American Express card? It doesn't even make any sense.
So by the time you came to sell, were you going to be upside down?
Yeah, I was going to be pretty upside down. So I ended up selling it. I did some other stupid spending. I bought stuff I shouldn't have, and figured I was already in debt, racked up some more debt, and ended up filing for bankruptcy. It took a couple of years before I ended up filing for bankruptcy, and pretty much lost it all. But I went all out. I lost it all, and it was interesting, man, because in every time that any experience or failure that I have, I make sure I always pull like some lesson. So the bankruptcy, I realized like I need to be more diligent with the way I spend money and more thoughtful in the way I spend money. I was too careless with my spending. And so most people would say, oh, why would you share that you filed for bankruptcy? Dude, that was one of the biggest learning lessons. That's never going to happen to me again. I am never going to file. I mean, hopefully not, unless I get sued in a major way or something. But my goal would be to never put myself in a financial position that I have to go through bankruptcy, because I already did it. So like I kind of learned those lessons really early on.
Hold on, before we move past this, because this is a big deal.
Yeah.
So you're a young guy, you're going to BK. Where was your mind at? Were you thinking my whole life's over? Were you thinking like this is just a road bump? Like, I mean, try to put yourself back there, because that would be the end for 99% of people. They'd be like, well, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I'm going to get a job. I'm never going to.
Yeah, I'm going to go get a job. I'm never going to take a risk again. I mean, where was your head?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a rough time. I remember I was like during that process after I'd sold the house, I like took up gambling and was like I thought I could game pachanga in Temecula. So I went there for 6 months every single day for 6 months and played blackjack.
Skylar, man.
This is good. Wait a minute. Don't you have to be 21 to get into pachanga?
Yeah, it was 21. So that was right around, sorry. Maybe I might be a year off so I filed bankruptcy right when I was around 21. So I bought the house when I was like 18, flipped it right around when I was 19. And then I kept that debt for probably another year and a half, 2 years. I like held on to the debt and continued to spend a little bit more. I didn't want to file bankruptcy. I always wanted to be a real estate investor.
Right.
So I figured if I filed bankruptcy, I'm going to be screwed and I can't buy houses. So I like extended it as long as I could till finally right around 21. I ended up filing for bankruptcy, but right around that same time though, I was looking for something to do. I was gambling, I was partying. It was just kind of a bad time because I had accumulated so much debt. I wasn't successful in business. I had tried multiple businesses. And so, yeah, I was in a tough spot. And so it was a challenging thing for me to be able to file bankruptcy. I remember walking into the attorney's office, like, are you serious? Like as a kid, I had big aspirations for what I was going to do. I walked in the attorney's office and I remember filling out the paperwork and just thinking like, how am I going to recover? Like, what am I going to do? It was a super low point when I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
Well, Skylar, anytime you're trying to gamble your way out of debt.
That's not a good idea. I don't recommend that for.
Okay. So you're kind of like, in theory, nearly bottoming out in a way at 21.
Yep.
So how do you overcome that? Like, how did you sit down and have a conversation with yourself? Like, did you even have the skills to really do it? You know, I mean, obviously you've done it, but what was that process? Because I think a lot of people would want to know that.
Well, I think, and one reason I didn't go too much into like a depression or a funk, luckily I'm a Christian and I had Jesus as like a strong foundation. So I always had something to go back to, like knowing I wasn't alone in this whole thing. So that was a huge saving grace. But once I filed for bankruptcy, I went and I just started the entrepreneurial journey again. I started to try to do like different loans and debt settlement. Um, so this is kind of funny. So I basically just did a reset. I did a hard reset. We wiped all my debt away. Said, okay, I'm starting new. And so I went out and I looked for like contract type positions, like sales positions. So I was trying to sell like loan modifications and debt settlement. And right about that time, I actually met my wife. Is when I met Jessica. We were out at a restaurant, and I ended up meeting her. Sorry, ended up meeting her at a restaurant. We fell super into love, and I basically was in a challenging spot where I was either going to have to get a job full time or take a risk and borrow $1,000 from my wife to go start a business. So I went and I asked her. We were driving. She was in her BMW. She had her own condo or BMW, super successful. And we were dating 3 months into it. And I said, "Hey, can I borrow $1,000?" And it was like super challenging for me as a guy. I don't know. It was a challenging thing to ask for. And so I asked her. She ended up lending me $1,000. I bought $1,000 worth of mailers. So I bought mailers and I mailed out for loan modifications, to different people's houses. I ended up closing one deal, reinvested the money, bought more mailers, closed another deal. And within like a year and a half, I had about 15 salespeople. It was a kind of a really quick progression with her support and kind of her partnership. We grew to about 15 salespeople and had a full like debt settlement, mortgage type business going by the time I was about 22 and a half, right in that range.
Yeah, Jessica has a background in that too, so she was helpful with you.
She was helpful. So having a good woman around, I think, is pretty important too. I learned that lesson early on too.
She was very good at business as well.
Yep. Yep. She was
dramatically.
She was much more disciplined than I was. So I was kind of the risk taker, and she's more of the disciplined. We need to be more thoughtful about all this stuff.
So what happened to that business?
Ended up selling it to our manager.
Okay.
Sold it to the guy who was running the business, and then that's when I went and bought a carpet cleaning van right after that in Temecula.
Okay, let's go through that because
yeah,
I know you were like working your ass off, and you're like, where's all the profit? And then you went through the whole embezzlement thing, right? I mean, you've posted about that.
Yeah.
That had to be hard, man, to work that hard and have it taken away. Basically your profit taken away.
Yeah, for sure. So we had, I'm actually writing that. I'm in the process of writing a book, and I'm going through that story and trying to replay out all the details. I remember. So we had bought a carpet cleaning van, and so I've always been pretty good at sales and marketing, and so we scaled it really quick. So we got to, I think, like 4 vans within like a 6-8 month period. Like
that's
really quick.
Crazy fast in carpet.
I know. We got it really fast. We were one of the top ones within a year in Temecula. And we were doing well, and we were producing pretty good revenue, and then we stumbled across restoration, like water damage. And then we realized, hey, there's some really good money in restoration. So we started to dabble into restoration. And so what happened was we had built up, I hired an office manager, and I was starting to like systemize the business. My whole goal in business was to find a way that I would operate on its own.
Right.
That's always been my goal. And so I hired office manager. I was developing systems. And I remember we left on a trip. We went out on a cruise, and we were sitting on this cruise. We left the team. It seemed like it was running well. We left we were on the cruise. I was sitting in the little room, and I was talking with Jessica, and I'm like, do you fully trust our office manager? I won't mention her name. And she's like, now that you say that, like, I don't fully trust her. I'm like, I don't really either. Like, I don't fully trust her. And I said, you know what? I don't think it's wise to have somebody we don't 100% trust, like kind of in charge of our business.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, we just got to fire her. So we went back, we fired her. And then I promoted Stephanie, who's now our general manager, to her. She was an assistant, promoted her to the office manager. And she came to us like a couple weeks later and said, like with a look on her face, she's like, I got to tell you guys something. I think blank blank was embezzling money from you guys. I've been calling all the clients and they've all said they've already paid. I was trying to collect from them and they already said they all paid. And so we looked it up and she had actually created her own PayPal account with our company name on it, Superior Restoration or Superior Cleaning at that time. So she had created her own PayPal account and was collecting from our clients under her PayPal account for like months. I think like 6 months.
That's dirty, dude.
she was doing it. It was horrible. But the thing I didn't tell you is right before that, we had actually decided to get out of carpet cleaning because we thought we weren't making any money. And so we closed the whole carpet cleaning division down and just went full restoration. When in retrospect, it was because she was siphoning money out that we thought we weren't as profitable. And so, So one of the, I mean, for the listeners out there, if there's ever somebody on your team that you don't trust, you know what I mean? Like not 100%. That was my biggest, I'm so grateful that happened. My wife still maybe isn't as grateful. She took it a little harder than I did. But a lot harder. She was pretty, for a long time, she was very upset, but I realized like, dude, that was huge. Now
it steered you in a totally different direction towards the restoration part of it.
Well, not only that, it changes how you operate forever.
Yep.
You're never going to make that mistake again.
No.
Right.
So we moved into restoration and now I only hire people I trust.
Yeah.
And so we learned like two amazing things came out of this major failure, right? When other people would look at that and say, man, that's rough. But the thing, and the third thing is I redesigned my company where that won't happen again.
Right. Okay.
That same way. So I have checks and balances in place to prevent that from happening. So I'm like crazy grateful that actually happened.
Yeah.
That was a tough time. That was a little bit of a rough time also.
So let's talk mindset, because coming back, most people don't bounce back from one failure, let alone multiple failures, right? They just sit there and go, oh, I guess I'm a loser. I'm never going to try anything again as long as I live. So, obviously you're wired for that, but what do you think people can do to start building their confidence back, to start, if they are in a bad spot, to start digging out and making those steps to get better? Because, things happen. Things happen to you. Things happen to Larry and I. That just happens, right? So what do you do to fix it?
That's interesting that you say wired, right? I'm wired for that. And I'm wondering, like, am I wired to be okay with failure? It's interesting, as I'm raising my two boys, I have a 4 and a 7-year-old. I am acutely aware that I want to wire them so they're okay to take risks. So I'm allowing them to like fail. Like if I see my little guy standing on top of the couch about to do something dumb, I actually let him do it. And as long as it's not going to be death, like I let them like eat it.
Absolutely. And you set them up sometimes for it and then they'll learn from it.
I'd rather be there when it's happening than otherwise. So my dad was kind of that way. He'd let me climb up stuff. If I could climb it, he'd let me climb up it, no matter what it was. And so I think maybe he did ingrain something in me that was where I could fail. And I realized I didn't die, right? Another fail. I didn't die as a kid. I'm not dying. So, okay, maybe it is okay to take risks and to have some failures.
So is your point that you learned this, you're not wired that way, or is it a bit of both?
Well, I don't think I was innately wired. I think I probably learned that as a kid, that it was okay to take risks. Like risks were okay to take. And so I want to ingrain that in my kids. But for those people that maybe didn't have that experience and that are risk, adverse, and when they have major failures, they don't know how to recover from them. Dude, I don't really know what to say for those people, because there's an abundance of stories of people that have failed and have come back from their failures, I would say my mindset around it, and if people that are listening to this could have this same mindset, my mindset is for every failure that I have a new lesson that I've learned,
Right.
which I add to my toolbox. So it's really about the mindset, like we talked about, like what's the mindset around it. So if listeners could just really, truly believe that failures are just growth. They were like, it's not even a speed bump, because a speed bump gets you back where you are. It's like a stair almost. Maybe you run into the stair, but then the next one's up. Then you run into the next one. You're just literally climbing upstairs and developing yourself. So the worst thing someone could do though is take a failure and say, there's something innately wrong with me. That's why I failed. It's like, no, or maybe there is something wrong with you, but you have an opportunity to change it now, right? So for me, when I got embezzled, I wasn't detailed at all. So somebody could easily take money from me. So after that, I'm like, fuck, I need to be detailed,
Right.
because I'm going to get stolen from again. So we have the opportunity to take these failures and then learn something new from them. So that's a key mindset, I think, that all really successful people have, is they realize that those failures are just little stepping stones that give them, some extra growth.
Well, and it's kind of a good segue into habits. And you've been talking a lot about habits on your social media lately, and probably for a long time. But, digging out of the hole, a lot of people have to change their habits to dig out of the hole. Like maybe, like you just said, well, I wasn't detail oriented. So a habit would be checking on things or something, right? And I know, you started a thing this year where you're going to get up at 5 o'clock every morning, no matter what, right? And it builds discipline. So what are some of the habits that you think people really don't do, but they need to work on just in general as entrepreneurs to get moving to the next level?
Yeah, so I mean, habits are critical. There's a really good book called Atomic Habits. Have you guys read that at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Atomic Habits.
It's a fabulous book. There's many books on habits, but that's a pretty comprehensive book.
Yep.
And I'm trying to get James Clear, the author, actually to come and speak to our entrepreneur group. He wants like $50,000 though to come speak. It's
That's
a
it.
little out of control. That's it. Yeah. So habits are crucial, man. So what I've realized, let me address the mindset first. So like our bodies, 95% of the things we do are habitual, like automatic. We brush our teeth, the way we walk, we even say the same conversations. Our facial expressions are habitual. Like almost everything about what we do is habitual. So if the biggest thing we can do to change our life is to put new habits into place. If we're operating off of habits routinely and we're not even aware of these habits, like all we have to do is become a master of habits, and then we can change our entire lives. And so a couple key habits, and I've been a student of habits and like learning how do you remove habits, bad habits, how do you put in new good habits. So I've gotten good at habits, like habit creation. And so one of the key habits I think that people need to have is a morning routine. And I'm going to say that's been for the last 6 years, I've had a morning routine, and you could put anything in your morning routine as long as you build a habit of having a morning routine. I was talking to a guy at my Bible study, and he's like, I can't consistently read the Bible. He's like, sometimes I miss it, sometimes I don't. I'm like, cool. What time at what part of the day do you read the Bible each day? Like, what time do you have set aside? He's like, I just kind of do it whenever I get a chance. How the heck are you ever going to be consistent if you do it whenever you get a chance? There's no way. So I'm like, dude, you got to do it in the morning at a specific time every single day. You go walk to your couch, you sit down, you grab your coffee, and you pick up, whatever you're going to read. Yeah. So I think just building a morning routine where, hey, I'm going to do something every morning at the same time, and you could start small. So for me, it's grabbing my coffee and reading my goals. So every morning I wake up, I grab my coffee, I pull up my spreadsheet with my goals and my tracking sheet on there, and I start reading those. So I make sure I do that every single morning. Right. And then after I'm done with the goals, then I go to the gym and work out. Or I have like 6 or 7 things I do before I go work out. It's all part of like my mini morning routine. But then I always I always have workouts set in the morning.
And how long does your routine take each day?
So it takes about 30 minutes, all the miscellaneous stuff I do, which is a little bit of reading. It's tracking my goals. It's reading affirmations. Do you guys believe in affirmations or like positive
Absolutely.
kind of
100%.
Valuable.
Yeah, so I read those. I have a sheet where I read all mine. Today, I just added a new one. It's called "I'm a Master Relationship Builder." I heard a guy say it, so I'm like, I want to get even better building relationships. So I added that to my. I think so. It's about 30 minutes, and I do about seven, 8 things.
And then work out for like an hour and a half kind of thing. And so
45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, 45 minutes. So you're doing the whole routine in hour and a half.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yep. Yeah, it's not bad. The challenge is most people, I think their biggest challenge is waking up at the same time every day.
Yeah. Well, do you do it on weekends? Saturday, Sunday, same thing? Or do you have a different routine?
No. For some reason, I've never put it into the weekend. So I still try to fit in like a workout, but I'm not as routine with it. So I kind of take the weekend off from my routine. I just do Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
But to do it effectively, I have to wake up. Like I wake up at 5. If I wake up at 6, my whole day, like yesterday, I woke up at 6, it threw everything off. It threw my whole day off. I was like,
so funny. It just changes your whole routine. Your rhythm is just twisted.
Yeah. Cause now I'm an hour late. Now I had to do shorter on the gym. I forgot to do my routine part. Like it just messed up the thing. So we have to get good at not pressing the snooze button. How are you guys with the snooze button? I'm curious.
I don't use it, but this guy does.
Well, hold on. And I was going to bring this up. I'm a night person. Everything that you do in the morning, I do at 10 at night to midnight. So I'm not a morning person. I've never in my life been a morning person. I purposely set my alarm so I can hit my snooze button 3 times, but then I get up at the actual time that I want to get up. And then everything that you two do in the morning goes to the end of the day for me. So like when everybody in my family goes to bed, when it's quiet, that's when I do all of my routine stuff. Same thing, a lot of the same things you're doing. But you see, I can't function prior to 9 a.m. But I can stay up all night long and be like so productive. It's unbelievable. So
he would try and meet for meetings, and he still tries to meet at like 5 or 6 or 7 at night. And I'm just shot. I got nothing left because I get up at 4.
I'm like, let's go. Let's hit it at 6 p.m., And, Larry and I have a meeting every morning at 6:30 his time, 7:30 my time, or, for like 15 minutes just to go, we're going to do these things today. And I'm inevitably like totally asleep the whole time. I'm about to call him back at noon and be like, dude, what were we doing again? So,
do you work out? Do you work out at night too?
No, lunch. My lunch break every day.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I got a gym in the garage, or I have trails, mountain biking, like literally out my door. So I'll work from like 7:30 till noon, train for an hour, and then I just eat at my desk. And then all that planning that you do, I do at like 9 p.m.
Got it.
Like
Got
10,
it. See, that works. The reason I don't think I was able, I tried that. And it's not the reason that you think I probably couldn't do it. The reason I couldn't do it is my wife likes to go to bed with me. So like every time I try to stay up like late and get a lot of work done, she would, complain. And so I would have to, it's like, she's like, well, I like going to sleep with you, or just be kind of weird. And so finally I'm like, dude, I just got to do it in the morning. Like that's the only way it can so that's my special time is in the morning. But some people are more flexible, I guess, with their spouse, and they're able to fit it in like at night. Which is totally
my
cool.
Wife's asleep by like 7:30, so she doesn't even know what I'm doing. She's like Larry. She gets up at 3:30, 4 a.m. Bro, I am not getting up at 3:30 unless it's really, really important.
I was dating a woman like that, and she liked me being next to her in bed. So I'd get up real early, but I had the laptop in my lap in bed for like an hour or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And that worked for a little while.
I think as long as you get these things done, as long as, because I'm very consistent about my nighttime routine. It's no different than your morning routine. I do think that our society and the business society in general in some ways rewards people who are more morning people than
Yeah.
evening people. But, you know, if you're just not wired that way, and to be honest, one of my best friends, who's Larry's friends with too, that's really financially successful, I don't think he even starts any day before noon or 1. And, you know, he just doesn't. He's just like, you know, I'm not doing it. And if I can't make money from, you know, noon to 9 p.m., then I won't make it from 5 a.m. till 4 p.m. either. So it's just a mindset, I think.
Yeah, I'm a student of modeling. I think I learned that from Tony Robbins, and so I just kind of model whatever people do that are successful. So if you can find people that are successful, right, or if you can be successful doing it at night, which there are people that do that at night, then you can just model that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like doing it before I go to bed, where and the last thing I do every single day before I go to bed is I look at my calendar for the next day and what the big goals or big things I want to work on. And I think there's something that in my mind while I'm sleeping, that was the last thing I did that day. So I think I'm thinking about it all night. So when I wake up in the morning, it's like, I know exactly what I need to do today. Whereas for me, being not morning person, if I try to do that in the morning, it will be noon before I really get around to doing that. So just different strokes for different folks. What about habits as far as just their overall performance, you know, at business? Let's just talk about business, you know, going through their books, making sure their team's good, you know, all these other things that a business owner needs to do. Do you have a habit around that, whether it's with managers or everybody? Or
That's a great question. I'm not as involved at like a deep level tactically with the business. We've been blessed to have built a really solid management team and company that operates a lot of things. I would say that when I was like in the business and directly daily coaching and working with a lot of my employees, it was I think the same thing applies. Having good habits for business is critical. So what I teach my team, one habit that we do is every week we write down 3 targets we call it 3 targets or 3 outcomes. So every Monday, what are the 3 outcomes that must be done this week that will push the business forward or push your division or push your role forward? And so that's a critical habit that we've kind of ingrained into a lot of our managers, because what happens is as owners or as managers, people will get lost in the minutia of business and they go put out fires. But like the most important thing, right, based off the one thing, you guys have read the one thing,
Yep.
the most important thing doesn't get done. So like that critical thing that was going to really make a big difference, right? A lot of times business development, that critical business development task that owner didn't do because they were focused on fixing other things or they didn't want to do it, didn't get done. And now it's a year later and they're like, man, my business hasn't grown. Like, dude, you keep doing all this other stuff when the most important, simple task is this.
It's mistaking activity for accomplishment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm super busy. You know, it's like, yeah, but busy, you know, Stephen Covey says it, you're stuck in the thick of thin things. You know, you're doing all this little stuff and, you know, it doesn't really equate to growth or systems or whatever.
So that one habit of writing down on a spreadsheet or on paper, your top 1, 2, or 3 outcomes, your
awesome.
top is critical for people to stay on track. And then every week you go through, did I complete it? Shoot, nope, I got distracted. Okay, so let me try again this week. And so you continue to evolve, and that's a really powerful habit. And then also, I would say, teaching that to the team also. If you have any managers, if anybody has any managers, teaching them to think more on like, what's the most important thing I need to get done, as opposed to what needs to get done. It's like, who cares what needs to get done? What's the most important thing that needs to get done? So just retraining our minds and building a habit of thinking of the highest level outcome instead of all the, well, I got to call John back. Well, hold on. What's the most important thing this week besides calling John back? Well, I got to hire a new business development rep. Okay, awesome. Spend 3 hours on that first and then call John back.
Right. You know? Yeah, absolutely. All right, I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of get into mentorship and coaching and stuff like that. You've obviously invested in yourself, but before we do that, I'd like to know, what are you reading and like what are you listening to? What are the things that you're feeding your mind with to put you in this space?
Great. There's a really good book. Have you guys heard of
Yeah,
Principles by Ray
Ray
Dalio?
Dalio,
Yes.
yeah.
So I
follow
just
him on
one
Instagram.
He's one of Tony's guys.
Yeah. Well, not one of Tony. Well, he's kind of one of Tony's guys. He knows Tony, but Ray Dalio is it's the world's most successful hedge fund, like the most profitable ever.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's a really good book. So that's more on. So I'm reading that. I'm reading Principles by
Okay.
Ray Dalio, and then I'm reading also Russell Brunson's Expert Secret.
Okay.
Not Expert Secret. It's his newest book that he came
Yeah.
out with on marketing and sales.
Right. What about podcasts?
Podcasts, I am listening to, you know who I'm really liking right now? Patrick Bet-David.
Yeah. The Valuetainment, and he does
Valuetainment.
PHP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my wife, Jessica, knows him, and she
Okay.
knows Ed Milet, so I tend to gear more towards those guys. But Patrick Bet-David's solid, man. Really good content, really effective, clear communicator, and just inspirational too.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. I watch his YouTube channel quite a bit.
And when you say podcast, I really mean YouTube. So I watch his YouTube versions of the podcast. I don't actually do actual podcast.
You do not? Okay.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, it's weird, but I listen to the same podcast that they do. I just watch the YouTube video of it. I like seeing the interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Coaching and mentorship. What's your take on that? Share kind of what you've done. And then I also want to get into Rise Up Kings and talk about that some too.
Cool. I mean, I have some pretty strong opinions on this. I know you guys are big proponents of coaching and hiring consultants. I think you guys throughout your career have done that and see the value in it. I think that the first consultant that I ever hired was 6 years ago, and the business was really struggling. My leadership team was kind of a mess. I was kind of actually over the company because there was just so much drama happening and systems were breaking down, and it was kind of a mess. And so I decided to hire a consultant to help me fix it or sell it. And I was like, dude, this is really not fun.
Right.
You know, I think every business owner probably at some point gets to that point where they're like, this is a freaking nightmare.
Right.
Like,
and you just want to move on and hit the next thing.
There's got to be something easier, right? There's got to be an easier business.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist probably.
No, I don't know. I don't know if there's an easier business. So I had hired him, and man, he was game changing. He came in and helped me redesign our processes. We ended up letting go of like 30% of our employees, and we just got rid of all the people that were hurting the business and that were poisoning the business.
Yeah.
And so I'm all about consultants, coaches, because they point out our blind spots, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about that, because all the coaches that we've had have point out our failures and what we're not leading our people or creating in our team. Was that one of the things that was pointed out to you?
Not really. He said I was one of the best CEOs he's ever seen in his entire life. Actually, no.
You needed a new coach, bro.
He said, you're doing everything.
Yeah, because all the coaches with Larry and I was not that.
He said, your team sucks, Skylar. He's like, you're a badass. He's like, you are a stud. Just keep doing what you're doing, and let's fire everybody. No.
You know what Larry and I witnessed, Skylar, and you could probably speak to this too, is that a lot of guys just keep going to maybe even the same coach over and over, but they never implement any of the things the coach tells them to do. You know, you're never going to get all of it, but at least make efforts to pick the top 3 things or something,
Yeah. The first thing he did was sit down with me and say, hey, he's like, you have a lot of major issues. He's like, you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but you're the problem. That's the first thing he told me. He's like,
yeah.
I'm like, what? I'm like, I thought it was that guy. And he's like, it's you. He's like, you're not having the right
that's a sign of a good coach.
Yeah, For sure. Oh, totally. And so I had to get a reality check that I'm not really leading my properly. I'm not communicating effectively. I'm not having the hard conversations enough. I'm not like, there's a lot of things I was dropping the ball on.
So was that because you think you were so big picture that you were kind of assuming other people would do all the other, like you'd set this vision and then you figured, well, they'll all figure out how to get there. Was that part of the issue?
Yeah. Yeah. That was part of the issue. And I think there was just surface niceness that was happening also. So we weren't getting the real challenging conversations on like my management team. And so it was just, we weren't making a lot of progress. So yeah, I would go do things and set things up. And I mean, what you mentioned was one of the issues, but the big underlying issues of why we had dysfunction on our management team is because we would be nice to each other. Oh, how you doing? Okay, just work a little harder on it. It's okay. It's like, no, you were dropping the ball. The company is suffering. You fix this by next month. You know, it's like I needed to have more really direct conversations.
Extreme accountability.
Yeah, a lot of accountability is what it sounds like.
Because I'm more of the nice, or I was more of the nice guy, you know, in the business. So I was kind of more just go with the flow. It's my dad's personality I got from him. So I've had to learn to be okay with conflict and just be really uncomfortable. I would just be okay being uncomfortable with, you know, if somebody's not going to like me, they're not going to like me.
Right.
You know, I just got to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, and you don't actually have to be a bad guy to hold people accountable. It's just, you know, sometimes it's uncomfortable.
They'll get mad. They will get mad. Like it is what it is. Some people will get mad when you tell them they're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
And they're going to think that they're the victim. You know?
Yeah. So. Well, some people want to be the victim. They've lived their whole life being the victim too, you know. So, well, let's talk about Rise Up Kings. I think a lot of the people listening probably haven't heard of it before, or you know, maybe some have. Could you talk about what you're doing with Rise Up Kings? Because I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, so Rise Up Kings, man, is kind of my passion project. I grew up, like I said, in a little bit of a, I don't know if I said that, but a little bit of a poorer area in Hemet. Grew up in a little mobile home, and my parents were divorced, and we just kind of struggled. And so I always wanted to be successful, and I continued even as a kid, I would put myself around successful people. Like anytime I could be around a successful person, I would always try to be connected with them in some way, like through association. And so I learned that was like a key to success. And so as on my journey of entrepreneurship, I've always, you know, I moved out of Hemet, moved to Temecula, eventually moved to Costa Mesa, moved to Newport Beach, because I realized there's a lot of successful people in Newport Beach, and I want to be around the most successful people. And so I built this program. What I found is a lot of entrepreneur men, they don't, well, there's two things. One, they usually are like the most successful out of their group of friends in general. And so they really need to level up their associations. But where do you go?
It's the law of the inner circle. You become the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
100%. But so if you realize your inner circle is not like helping you develop to the next level, where do you go to find?
Right.
And so I wanted to build a community of guys that were just hustling and grinding. So that was one part. That's why I started Rise Up Kings. But the other part was I found the hardest thing, especially as a man, was growing a business while still staying married and connected to your wife, while being a great father, while still staying fit and in shape, and still like being connected to God. Like, how do you do all of those? And so I found on my journey, including myself, there's a lot of 1 or 2 dimensional guys that are like really good at business, but they're totally out of shape and like, you know, have diabetes and are struggling. Or there's really fit guys that are dead broke, right? The gym rats, totally buff, but they have no money at all. So there's a lot of one-dimensional men. And I've over the last 6 years, I've been figuring out the system or a process. How do you do it all? How do you get all 4 of those pillars? I call them the 4 pillars: faith, family, fitness, and finance. How do you master all 4 of those pillars? And how do you have all 4 of those really strong? And there's a system and a process for that I learned over the last 6 years that I wanted to teach guys how to do that, and that it's even possible. Some people, you know, don't think that you can even really have it all, but you totally can have it all. It just takes a lot of work and actually a system. There's got to be some kind of guides to help you get to that place. If you're like most men, which we have a hard time looking at a lot of different things at once, or I do.
So how does it
So
work? So can you, I mean, if you don't mind, just how does it work? Like you have groups of 10 or 12 guys, and what do you do?
yeah. It's, so I have a mastermind program, which is pretty cool, but the premise or the biggest part of this whole program is a 3-day event.
Okay.
What I've found is that for men, like a lot of men get comfortable. And so if I can get guys to push themselves harder than they've ever pushed themselves, like they'll see a different version of them. So actually, I went through one of these programs myself. I got put into like a Navy SEAL type program, and I was surprised at how, like, I thought I was going to die like multiple times, and I pushed through and I felt like a badass after. So this 3-day event is like kind of not as hardcore, but it's just an extreme. We have physical activities, but we have a ton of business training. And so basically it's just a really neat a lot of fitness, I believe, should be a part of every man's regimen. Like,
Yeah.
I really believe that's a key part. You guys are great with that. You guys have always been great with that, but so many people don't underestimate the importance of fitness.
Well,
in a guy's
I know
life.
it's just what you said, what you just said, about pushing through. I'm really into cycling. Cycling is a sport where the major tenet of cycling is suffering. So you're always suffering. You're always making yourself uncomfortable. You're always hurting. And I love that because that, translates to everything else out in your life. You're like, you know what? If I could just go climb that mountain, I can go do this too. Like, I think that's important.
100%. And I was talking to one of our graduates last week, and he said, dude, because our first class was in January, he said, you don't know how powerful the timing of that event was. We went through like some pretty challenging, some suffering at that event. He's like, that helped me get through the coronavirus in my business.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We hit such hard times in my business that if I wouldn't have had that experience that I could look back at and say, no, I can keep going. I can keep going. I can keep going. I have more in me. I have more in me. I have more in me. I know I can do more. He's like, without that, dude, he's like, I would have gone through depression. I would have like hit some really bad lows. He's like, but I was able to keep my head above the water.
Yeah.
Well, Larry and I have talked about this several times on the podcast. We won a contest when we were with Piranha Marketing, and we got to see Richard Branson for an afternoon with only like 20 people in the room. And somebody, stood up and said, could you give us what your secret sauce is for business? The number one thing, if you could tell any entrepreneur. And Richard Branson sat there for a few seconds and he went, work out every day. Right. And the whole room just stopped. And then everybody looked at each other like, what the fuck was that?
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was Larry and I left there and we were like, that was odd. But then as we started really thinking about it deeply, like, you learn to suffer, you feel better, so you treat people better, you're in a better mood. Like, that goes so deep in every aspect of your life. And after that, Larry and I, like you said, we took it really seriously. Like, we were like, no, we're always going to be in shape from here on out somehow.
Yeah,
I think it's an important part of, go ahead, Larry. Yeah.
Well, just different organizations that we've been involved with, different coaching groups. And we try and say this to people, and it's not as prevalent.
No.
And what you're saying and doing, Skylar, is really helpful to guys because you get past something physically, it does something in your mind, it impresses you, and it builds up your self-confidence to get past other things. And it's a big deal. And working out on a regular basis just keeps your head in the right spot. And
Yeah,
it's very
that's what I was going to say.
valuable.
Mental health, man. That's why
Yeah.
the scary thing is when they close gyms for coronavirus and people are not getting that mental stimulation, and it's mentally unhealthy to not stimulate your body. And so that's this kind of the scary thing about what's going on. So hopefully they don't close gyms like in California. I know they are in some other areas, Arizona, they close some gyms. Yeah,
it's a big deal. So, I don't want to take too much of your time, Skylar. We're pushing an hour. So how do people look into Rise Up Kings? How do they, go check you out? All that good stuff if they're interested.
Yeah. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram, Skylar, Skylar, Lewis, Lewis. And then riseupkings.com, man. Rise Up Kings, we just set up our first event post it's not really post-COVID. We're still in COVID. Our first event since COVID happened, which is in
hoping we're
August.
past COVID.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know,
sure.
I know.
So how if you don't mind me asking, how are you managing that? Because that can't be easy.
COVID
with the rise of like having events, you could
we're basically on halt for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
But we figured out a way to do it in a safe way. So where we have like proper social distancing, sanitation, masks, like it's going to still be a pretty epic event, but we're going to structure it a little bit different.
And when does that happen?
That's August 27th, 28th, and 29th in Newport Beach. So we do some pretty fun beach.
Are there still slots open?
Yeah, we have. I think we just launched it actually yesterday. I think yesterday or this morning. So we have right now 8 spots left.
Okay,
There's
cool.
four that have signed up.
Definitely check Rise Up Kings. Anything, Larry? You want any final comments?
No, great feedback, Skylar. So it was wonderful having you, seeing you, talking with you, and communicating. You got a great attitude, wonderful mindset.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Love what you're doing, man. It's cool. I hope your guys' podcast and what you're doing blows up at like a high level. A lot of people can use it.
We're working on it, man. working hard. So, all right, Skylar. Thanks, man. Really appreciate your time.
Good to see you, bro. Take care.
Thanks. See you guys. Bye.